The grand amphitheater of the Galactic Institute was the largest classroom in the known universe. It could hold 50,000 students from 100 different planets. The seats curved upward like a giant bowl, and each row had special areas for different species. Some needed water to breathe. Some needed darkness. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles because their bodies were too fragile for normal chairs. On this particular morning, the amphitheater was completely full. Word had spread across the campus that Professor was going to give a special lecture. Nobody wanted to miss it. Professor was one of the oldest species in the galaxy. He had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His skin was covered in small scales that changed color with his mood. Right now, they were a calm blue-green. He had been teaching at the Institute for over 300 years, and students said he knew more about alien species than anyone alive. In the third row, sitting between a giant insect creature and a being made of living crystal, were 2 humans. Their names were They were exchange students from Earth, specifically from a university in Seoul. They had been at the Institute for almost 1 year now. Was 24 years old with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She was studying alien biology, was 26, tall and quiet, with a gentle face. He was studying galactic history. They were only the 5th and 6th humans to ever attend this school, and everywhere they went, aliens stared at them with curiosity. "Why is everyone so excited?" whispered 2. "I heard the professor is going to talk about the apex predator classification," whispered back. Raised her eyebrows. She had heard of this classification before. It was the highest danger rating the Galactic Council could give to any species. It meant that the species was so dangerous that other civilizations should never fight them under any circumstances. In the entire history of the galaxy, only 2 species had ever received this rating. One of them had destroyed itself in a civil war 1,000,000 years ago. The other was unknown too. Professor walked slowly to the center of the platform. The room became quiet. Even the species that communicated through sounds too high or too low for human ears stopped their conversations. "Good morning," the professor said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones rubbing together. The translation devices in everyone's ears converted his words into their own languages. "Today, I will tell you something that the Galactic Council has kept secret for many years. I have received special permission to share this information with you." He paused and looked around the room with all 4 of his eyes. "Today, we will discuss the newly classified apex predator species of the known universe." Whispers spread through the audience, felt her heart beat faster. "As you know," continued, "the apex predator classification is extremely rare. It is not given to species that are simply strong or aggressive. Many species are strong. Many species are aggressive. The classification is given only to species that are so dangerous, so impossible to defeat, that the only winning strategy is to never fight them at all." A large insect creature in the front row raised one of its many arms. "Professor, with respect, the last species to hold this classification destroyed themselves. Is there truly another?" Scales shifted to a darker shade. "Yes, there is. And unlike this species is very much alive. They are expanding across the galaxy as we speak. Some of them are sitting in this very room." Every eye, sensor, and optical organ in the amphitheater turned toward and felt her face grow hot, sat very still, his hands gripping his knees. "Humans," Professor said. "The species called humanity has been classified as an apex predator by unanimous vote of the Galactic Council." The room exploded with noise. Creatures shouted, clicked, buzzed, and flashed lights in disbelief. A student near hissed loudly. "This is ridiculous," they said. Its body was like a snake wrapped around itself with dozens of small arms. "Look at them, they are soft. They have no natural armor, no venom, no claws worth mentioning. They cannot even survive in vacuum without assistance. How can they possibly be apex predators?" Many students made sounds of agreement. Professor waited for the noise to die down. His scales had turned a patient gray. "I expected this reaction," he said calmly. "It is the same reaction the council had when first presented with the evidence. That is why I have prepared this lecture. By the end, you will understand, and you will be afraid." He activated the holographic display system. A giant image of Earth appeared floating above the platform, blue and green and white, spinning slowly. "This is their home world," said. "It looks peaceful, beautiful even, but make no mistake. This planet is a death world. The gravity is higher than galactic average. The atmosphere contains a corrosive gas called oxygen. The surface is covered in a substance that burns unprotected skin. They call it water. The planet experiences constant natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, and the life forms that evolve there are just as hostile as the planet itself." He zoomed in on the planet's surface. Humans evolved on this world. They survived it, they conquered it, and now they have begun to spread beyond it. Professor looked directly at End. His 4 eyes held no hostility, only a deep, ancient respect. "Today, you will learn why every species in this galaxy should hope that humanity remains friendly. And you will learn what happens to those who make enemies of the persistent ones." Swallowed hard, beside her had gone very pale. The lecture had only just begun. Professor let the silence hang in the air for a long moment. The image of Earth still floated above the platform, but now it changed. The view zoomed in to show a vast golden grassland under a hot sun. The grass stretched to the horizon in every direction. "To understand why humans are dangerous," the professor said, "we must first understand how they became the dominant species on their planet. Their method of hunting is unique in the known galaxy. It is also deeply disturbing." The hologram showed a group of early humans. They looked weak. They had no fur to protect them from the sun. Their bodies were thin and fragile-looking. They carried simple wooden spears, nothing more. In the distance, there was a large animal with 4 legs and long horns. It was bigger than the humans, faster than the humans, stronger than the humans. By all logic, the humans should not have been able to catch it. "Watch carefully," said. The humans began to walk toward the animal. The animal saw them and ran away. It was incredibly fast. In seconds, it was far away, just a small shape on the horizon. The humans did not run after it. They simply kept walking in the same direction. "Most predators in the galaxy use one of 3 methods to catch prey," explained. "Speed, ambush, or overwhelming force. Humans had none of these advantages, so they invented a 4th method. They called it persistence hunting." The hologram showed time passing. The sun moved across the sky. The humans kept walking. They followed the tracks of the animal. They did not hurry. They did not rest. "The animal they are hunting is faster than them," said. "It can run at speeds no human can match. But there is a problem for this animal. Running that fast creates heat. The animal must stop to cool down. It must rest. It must drink water." The hologram showed the animal stopping under a tree, breathing hard. Its body was hot. It needed rest. Then the humans appeared on the horizon, still walking, still coming. The animal ran again, and the humans followed, walking, always walking. "Humans have a unique ability among Earth predators," continued. "They can sweat. This strange bodily function allows them to regulate their body temperature while moving. They do not need to stop to cool down. They can walk for hours, for days, without stopping." A student raised a tentacle. They were a water species, with soft bodies and many flexible limbs. Surely the prey could simply escape, keep running until the humans gave up. Scales shifted to a dark purple. That is what every prey animal tried. None succeeded, because humans do not give up. The hologram continued. Hours passed. The sun began to set. Then it rose again. A full day had gone by. The animal was exhausted now. It could barely stand. Foam dripped from its mouth. It had run so many times that its muscles were failing. And still the humans came, walking steady, patient. Finally, the animal collapsed. It could not run anymore. It could not even stand. The humans walked up to it calmly and killed it with their simple spears. The animal died of exhaustion and fear, said quietly. Not from the spears. The humans simply waited for it to give up. They followed it until its body failed and its spirit broke. The amphitheater was completely silent. In the third row thought about her grandmother. Used to say that the secret to life was simple. Never stop moving forward, even when you are tired, even when you want to quit. Just keep walking. Had always thought it was just advice about hard work. Now she wondered if it was something deeper, something in the blood. This hunting method worked because of one simple truth, said. Humans do not stop. They cannot be outrun. You can be faster than a human. You can be stronger. You can hide from them. But eventually they will find you. And they will still be coming when you are too tired to take another step. He changed the hologram to show a star map. Different alien civilizations were marked with different colors. You might think this is ancient history, said. Primitive behavior from before humans developed technology. You would be wrong. Humans simply found new ways to apply this same strategy. The map showed the expansion of human territory over the past 200 years. It was slow at first. Then it grew faster and faster. When humans want something, they pursue it across generations. Their individual lives are short, but their memory is long. They teach their children to continue what they started. They write books and make records so that nothing is forgotten. He pointed to a small region of space colored in gray. This was the territory of the collective. 200 years ago, they attacked a human colony and killed 10,000 people. The humans could not fight back at the time. They were too weak, so they waited. They built their strength. They planned. And 3 generations later, when they had forgotten all about the attack, human warships arrived at their home world. Paused, the collective no longer exists. A heavy silence filled the room. Humans have a saying, the professor said. Revenge is a dish best served cold. It means they are willing to wait, to be patient, to pursue their enemies across years, decades, or even centuries. He looked at the students with all 4 eyes. When you make an enemy of a human, you are not making an enemy for a day or a year. You are making an enemy forever. They will follow you. They will find you. And they will never, ever stop. Leaned close to, is this really how other species see us? Did not answer. She was thinking about history class back on Earth, about all the wars humans had fought against each other, about how some conflicts lasted for generations, about how humans kept fighting even when victory seemed impossible. Maybe the professor was right. Maybe there was something in humans that refused to give up, something that would chase its prey to the end of the world. Something that the rest of the galaxy had every reason to fear. Professor took a moment to drink from a container of thick blue liquid. His scales had become slightly gray with tiredness. He had been speaking for over an hour, but the most important lessons were still to come. What I have told you so far explains how humans hunt, he said, setting down the container. But hunting is only one part of survival. The other part is what happens when the hunter becomes the hunted. What happens when a human is attacked, wounded, or broken. He activated the hologram again. This time, it showed medical data. Charts and graphs appeared in the air, displaying information about injury responses in different species. Every species in the galaxy has a natural response to damage, explained. When it is injured, its body releases chemicals that cause it to retreat and hide until healed. When it loses a limb, it enters a dormant state to conserve energy. These are logical responses. Protect the body. Avoid further damage. Wait for recovery. The charts changed to show human data. The patterns were completely different from all the others. Humans do not follow this pattern, said. His voice was quieter now. When humans are damaged, their bodies release chemicals that increase aggression, reduce pain sensitivity, and enhance physical performance. In other words, injury makes them more dangerous, not less. A murmur went through the crowd. This made no biological sense to most of the species present. Their medical files are full of cases that should be impossible, continued. He pulled up a specific file. This is the record of a human soldier named. During the conflict, an explosion destroyed both of his legs below the knee. The hologram showed images of the injury. Several students looked away. The wounds were severe. By any reasonable standard, this human's fighting career should have been over. For most species, this would mean permanent retirement from military service, said. Return to active combat 7 months later. The hologram showed the same man, now walking on artificial legs made of metal and plastic. He was leading a group of soldiers into battle. The enemy forces had studied human biology, continued. They knew that humans needed their legs to move. They had designed weapons specifically to remove this advantage. They thought that crippling human soldiers would be more effective than killing them, because injured soldiers require resources to care for. His 4 eyes swept across the room. They were catastrophically wrong. The wounded humans did not become burdens. They became more determined, personally led the assault that broke the enemy's strongest defensive line. After the war, he was asked why he returned to combat instead of accepting an honorable retirement. Do you know what he said? Pulled up a text quote on the hologram. He said, "They took my legs. I wanted to take everything from them." The amphitheater was completely silent. In the back of the room, sitting in the diplomatic observation area, a woman named nodded slowly. She was a military officer, part of Earth's delegation to the Institute. She had heard of. She knew many soldiers like him, humans who had been broken and came back stronger, who had been knocked down and refused to stay down. Humans have a concept called spite, said. The translator may not render it perfectly for all of you, so I will explain. Spite is the desire to survive and succeed purely to deny your enemy the satisfaction of your defeat. It is not logical. It does not improve survival chances in most cases, but humans are full of it. He showed more files, more cases. A pilot who flew her damaged ship into an enemy command vessel, surviving the crash through sheer luck and willpower. A scientist who was told his disease was incurable and spent the next 40 years developing a treatment, living just long enough to see it work. A prisoner of war who survived 10 years of torture and outlived the government that had imprisoned him by another 30 years. Their stories are full of these examples, said. Their heroes are not the strongest or the fastest. Their heroes are the ones who endured the most suffering and still refused to break. He paused to let this sink in. Now consider what this means in warfare. When you fight most species, damaging them reduces their combat effectiveness. When you fight humans, damaging them often has the opposite effect. Wounded human units do not retreat. They become angry. They become reckless. They become terrifyingly effective. He showed battle statistics from the Orion skirmish, a conflict that had happened 50 years ago. A human battalion had been ambushed and suffered 70% casualties in the first hour of fighting. By all military logic, this unit should have surrendered or fled, said. Instead, their combat effectiveness increased by 40%. They fought for 6 more hours and eventually won the battle. A delegate in the military observation section clicked his mandibles nervously. They were in species known for their disciplined armies. How is this possible? Losing 70% of your force should destroy unit cohesion. It should, agreed. But humans have another trait that makes this possible. When their friends die, they do not become sad and demoralized. They become angry and motivated. They call it avenging the fallen. Every dead human becomes a reason for the survivors to fight harder. He pulled up one more quote, from a human general whose name did not recognize. The general said, Kill one of us, and you have killed one soldier. But you have also created 100 soldiers who will never stop until you are destroyed. In the third row sat very still. She was a who had come to the Institute to study alien life. But now she was learning something about her own species that she had never fully understood before. She thought of her grandfather, who had survived terrible things during a war long ago. He had lived another 60 years after that, not because he wanted to live, but because he refused to let his enemies have the satisfaction of his death. He had watched the government that hurt him collapse. He had danced on the day their leader was put on trial. Spite, that was what called it, but thought there might be another word for it. Humans called it strength. Professor's scales changed color again. This time they shifted to a soft shade of yellow that meant wonder in emotional language. When he spoke next, his voice was gentler than before. Now we come to the trait that confuses the Galactic Council most of all, he said. Everything I have told you so far paints humans as fierce predators, relentless hunters, dangerous enemies. All of this is true, but it is not the complete picture. He changed the hologram to show something unexpected, a human child hugging a dog. The dog was wagging its tail happily. Humans form emotional attachments, said. This is not unusual. Many species form bonds with family members or mates. What makes humans unusual is that they will form attachments to anything, and I mean anything. The hologram changed to show more images. Humans with cats, humans with horses, humans with birds, humans with small furry animals, humans with reptiles, humans with fish, humans with spiders. Some of these animals are predators that could harm them, pointed out. Some are prey animals that serve no practical purpose. Some are venomous. Some are dangerous. It does not matter. Humans adopt them all, give them names, and treat them as family members. A few students laughed. A crystalline being made a sound like wind chimes that indicated amusement. You find this funny, said. I understand it seems harmless, perhaps even foolish, but watch. The hologram changed again. Now it showed humans with machines. A soldier was patting the side of a vehicle and calling it by a name. A pilot was talking to her spaceship like it could hear her. A child was crying because a cleaning robot had broken. They name their machines, said. They apologize to furniture when they bump into it. They feel guilt when they replace an old device with a new one. I have documented cases of humans holding funerals for robots. More laughter from the audience, but some species were starting to look uncomfortable. Now, said, and his voice became serious, consider what this means. Humans do not simply form bonds with living things. They form bonds with ideas, with places, with concepts. A human can love a country they have never seen, a person they have never met, or a future they will never live to experience. He pulled up more images. Humans protesting for causes. Humans sacrificing themselves for strangers. Humans working their entire lives for goals they would never personally benefit from. When humans fight, said slowly, they are not just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for everyone and everything they have ever bonded with, their family, their friends, their pets, their home, their nation, their species, their principles. He turned to look at the military delegations in the observation areas. This is why human units do not break when they suffer casualties. This is why wounded humans keep fighting. Every human soldier is not fighting alone. They are fighting for dozens, hundreds, or thousands of bonds. Kill their companions and you do not weaken their resolve. You give them more reasons to fight. In the audience wiped a tear from her eye. She was a diplomat assigned to represent Earth at the Institute. She thought of her ship's AI system, which the crew had named, which meant grandfather. The AI was just a program. It could not feel emotions. But the crew celebrated its activation anniversary every year. They talked to it like it was real. They cared about it. When pirates had attacked their ship last year, the crew had fought like demons to protect it. Not because the ship was valuable, because was family. There is an old human saying, continued. A dog is the only creature on earth that loves you more than it loves itself. But I have studied humans carefully, and I believe the opposite is also true. A human will love a dog more than it loves itself. A human will die for a creature that cannot even understand the concept of sacrifice. He paused. Now imagine what they will do for creatures that can understand, for friends, for children, for lovers, for comrades in arms. The hologram showed battle footage from various conflicts. In every case, human soldiers took incredible risks to save their companions. They ran into fire to drag wounded friends to safety. They used their own bodies as shields. They fought impossible odds rather than abandon anyone. The Galactic Council has calculated that human soldiers are 60% more likely to die in combat than soldiers of other species, said. Not because they are weaker, because they refuse to abandon their bonded companions, even when retreat would save their own lives. A student raised a thin arm. Professor, surely this is a weakness. Emotional attachment clouds judgment. It leads to poor tactical decisions. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. You would think so. The council thought so too, but consider, a human who fights only for themselves has limited motivation. They will retreat when survival is threatened. A human who fights for their bonds has unlimited motivation. They will do anything. They will sacrifice everything. He showed one final image. It was a human woman standing alone against a much larger alien. The alien had weapons. The woman had nothing. Behind her was a group of alien children she had never met before. This happened on station, said. A terrorist was attacking alien refugees. This human woman had no weapons and no training. She stood between the terrorist and the children simply because she could not bear to let innocent creatures be harmed. What happened to her? Someone asked. She was badly injured, said. She survived, the children survived, the terrorist did not. His scales shifted to a deep blue of respect. Humans will bond with alien children they have never met. They will bond with robots and animals and abstract ideals. And once they bond with something, they will destroy anything that threatens it. He looked around the room. This is why the Galactic Council added one special note to humanity's apex predator classification. The note says, the safest strategy is to become something they want to protect, because there is nothing more dangerous in the universe than a human fighting for something it loves. Thought about her family back on Earth, her parents, her brother, her grandmother. She thought about sitting next to her, her friend and colleague. She thought about the alien students she had met over the past year, some of whom she had started to care about. She understood now. She understood what made humans different. They did not just want to survive. They wanted everyone they loved to survive too. And they would burn the galaxy to make it happen. Professor deactivated the hologram. The image faded away, leaving only the old standing alone on the central platform. His scales had shifted to a pale silver, the color of deep thought and solemn truth. He looked tired, but his 4 eyes were clear and bright. The grand amphitheater was completely silent. 50,000 students from 100 worlds sat in their seats, barely breathing. They had come expecting a simple lecture about a classification system. They had received something far more profound. They had learned to fear a species they had previously dismissed as soft, weak, and unimportant. Let me tell you a story, said softly. 230 years ago, when humans first made contact with the galactic community, the council sent me to study them. I was younger then, and I thought the assignment was a waste of my time. What could these primitive creatures possibly teach us? He walked slowly across the platform, his clawed feet clicking against the smooth surface. I spent 10 years living among them. I watched them work and play. I watched them love and hate. I watched them build and destroy. And at the end of those 10 years, I returned to the council and gave my report. He stopped walking and faced the audience. I told the council that humanity was the most dangerous species I had ever encountered, not because of their technology, not because of their military power, but because of who they are, what they are, the very nature of their existence. Raised one scaled hand and began counting on his fingers. They are persistent predators who will chase their prey across generations. They grow stronger when they are damaged. They form unbreakable bonds with everything they meet. And they believe, truly believe, that nothing is impossible if they simply refuse to give up. He lowered his hand. The council did not believe me at first. They thought I had become too close to my subjects, too emotional. They sent other researchers to verify my findings. Every single one of them came back with the same conclusion. Humanity is dangerous beyond measure. In the third row sat very still. She felt the weight of thousands of alien eyes on her. Some looked at her with fear. Some looked at her with respect. Some looked at her with something that might have been envy. Beside her had not moved in several minutes. His hands were folded in his lap and his face was calm, but knew him well enough to see the emotion in his eyes. He was processing everything he had heard, rethinking everything he knew about his own species. The Galactic Council debated for 50 years about what to do with humanity, continued. Some wanted to destroy them before they became too powerful. Some wanted to restrict their technology and keep them contained to their home system. Some wanted to make allies of them before anyone else could. He paused. In the end, the council chose a fourth option. They chose to watch and wait, to study, to prepare, because they understood something important. His four eyes swept across the room one final time. Humanity cannot be destroyed. They would survive anything we threw at them and come back stronger. They cannot be contained. They would find a way out and never forgive us for trying. The only viable strategy is to ensure that humanity never sees us as enemies. He walked to the edge of the platform, as close to the audience as he could get. The official recommendation of the Galactic Council is as follows. Do not antagonize humanity. Do not threaten what they love. Do not underestimate their resolve. Do not assume their apparent weakness is true weakness. And above all else, never make them chase you. His voice dropped to barely a whisper, but every being in the amphitheater heard him clearly. Because they will catch you, if not today, then tomorrow, if not in this generation, then the next. Humanity does not forget, humanity does not forgive, and humanity does not stop. He stepped back and bowed his great-scaled head. This concludes my lecture. I thank you for your attention, and I advise all of you to think very carefully about how you treat the humans you meet in your lives. They may seem soft, they may seem kind, they may seem weak, but somewhere inside every human is a predator that has been chasing its prey since before your species learned to walk upright. The lecture was over. Slowly, the students began to rise from their seats. They filed out of the amphitheater in unusual silence. Normally, after a lecture, the halls would be full of conversation and debate. Today, everyone was quiet, lost in thought, and were among the last to leave. They walked together through the great doors and out into the sunshine of an alien world. The sky was purple here, and the trees were blue, but the warmth on their faces felt almost like home. "Did you know?" asked finally. "Did you know we were like that?" Thought about it for a long moment. She thought about her grandmother, who had walked 10 kilometers through a snowstorm to reach a hospital when her daughter was sick. She thought about her father, who had worked 3 jobs for 15 years to give his family a better life. She thought about her brother, who had spent 6 years learning a skill just to prove wrong a teacher who said he would never succeed. "I think I knew," she said slowly. "I just never thought about it that way before." They walked in silence for a while, past alien buildings and alien gardens and aliens who now looked at them with new understanding. The professor said something at the end, about how we seem soft and kind and weak. "Yes. Do you think that is true? Do you think we just seem that way? Stopped walking. She looked up at the purple sky, at the strange stars that were just beginning to appear as the sun set. Somewhere up there was Earth, home, the death world that had created her species. I think we are soft and kind, she said. I think we genuinely want to help and love and protect. But I also think there is something else inside us. Something that wakes up when the people we love are threatened. Something that will do anything, sacrifice anything, destroy anything to keep them safe. She turned to look at her friend, her colleague, another human in a galaxy full of aliens. I think we are the most loving species in the universe, she said, and I think that is exactly what makes us the most dangerous. Nodded slowly, he understood. Above them, the stars burned cold and eternal. Among those stars were 100 civilizations that had learned to fear humanity. 100 species that knew what happened to those who threatened human bonds. And on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, 7 billion humans went about their ordinary lives, loving their families, caring for their pets, working for their dreams, building bonds with everything they met. They did not know that the galaxy feared them. They did not need to know. They were simply being human. And that was enough to make them the apex predators of the universe.